you.
Perfect. All right. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Soli Salgado. I am the editor of Global Sisters Report, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to this Witness and Grace session, which will explore the work that sisters do to confront violence against women. This particular Witness and Grace event is special to us because it is done in partnership with Sisters Rising Worldwide, whose work we'll learn more about in today's conversation. Just to echo what Lori said before we get started, if you guys want to throw your names and location into the chat, that way we have a good idea of everyone we're in conversation with today. It's always fun to see that reach. A little more housekeeping. You may have noticed that you are on mute. Thank you for your patience with this. We do that to ensure a good listening experience for everyone. Today's session is being recorded. So within a few days of this event, you will receive an email with a link to the recording and any other resources referenced by our panelists. The flow for this session is pretty simple. We'll begin by hearing from our panel, followed by a Q&A with all of you. So please feel free to submit your questions at any time using the chat feature in Zoom, so we can hopefully answer as much as we can before we part. Okay, with that said, I'd like to begin by sharing just a little about GSR for those of you who are unfamiliar, who maybe found this through Sisters Rising Worldwide. As a publication under National Catholic Reporter, Global Sisters Report is dedicated to reporting on religious life and the work of Catholic sisters, while also being a platform where sisters can write and share their experiences firsthand. And every year we pick a series in which a theme, typically related to social justice, is explored more in depth. It's top of mind as our reporters look for stories and becomes a common thread that runs through a lot of our coverage. And this past year, that series has been Out of the Shadows, Confronting Violence Against Women. 2025 marked 30 years since the Beijing Declaration, a UN resolution focused on equality for women. That brought the subject top of mind for us at GSR, knowing that violence against women also touches so many other issues: poverty, sexism and gender dynamics, human trafficking. But it's also an area that we were confident was rife with sisters in active ministry, being both a source of refuge for women as well as being long-term solutionists working to change the attitudes that lead to this violence. So in today's conversation, we'll hear all about the nuances of how this issue manifests. We'll highlight a few specific ministries and projects and explore how awareness can lead to action. So without further ado, let's meet our panel here. We have a very exciting lineup. We'll start with GSR's Chris Herlinger. Hi, please introduce yourself to our group here.
Yes, I'm Chris. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah, I'm the international correspondent, which entails a couple of things. One is covering the United Nations, and I see some faces, sister faces I've covered in the past and still in the present at the UN. And a couple times a year, I get to travel for GSR and internationally. And most recently, I was in Indonesia to cover the work of sisters in a number of ministries, but a focus on what we're talking about today, gender-based violence. So look forward to sharing more with you later on that.
Thank you, Chris, who has attested he is no longer jet lagged, but that was a close call. He is pretty fresh from Indonesia, so excited to hear more about that later. Now let's hear from Talitha Coombs, Rosa Siamachoka. Hello, please tell us about yourself.
Hi, good evening. Oh, good morning and good afternoon as well. My name is Rosa Siamachoka, and I'm the programs officer for Talitha Zambia. So my full work focuses on prevention as well as supporting our community initiatives here within the dioceses that we're working in Zambia.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rosa. Sister Ethel Munsaka, welcome and hello. Please introduce
Hello.
yourself.
Hello, thank you. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on the time of of the day. I'm Sister Ethel Munsaka. I belong to the Sisters of the Holy Cross. I'm part of the team for Talitha Zambia. And with Talitha Zambia, I participate in advocacy and awareness raising. I'm also a member of Talitha Africa team at an African level, and I do train youths in Talitha activities and programs. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you for being with us. This is going to be an awesome lineup for those on the ground testimonies. Lastly, let's hear from Sister Irene O'Neill. Hello, how are you?
I'm wonderful and I'm happy to be here too. So thank you for everybody coming as well.
Great.
I'm a Sister of St. Joseph of Carondelet, and I worked in development for over 20 years, helping to raise funds for our sisters programs locally, and often ran into people saying, I would love to help sisters if I knew where they were. And that was the beginning of Sisters Rising Worldwide, which I can continue to tell you about.
Please, yes, I was going to ask about the origin story and why it was created. I'd love to hear it.
Okay, thank you. All right. When I was hearing from people about, I would help sisters if I knew where they were, I began to realize that the resources they were talking about went way beyond the need of the Sisters of St. Joseph. And I thought of all of the sisters around the world and how sisters are the advocates for speaking up for women when they're in trouble and when the voices are silent. Prevention of poverty through education and empowerment and job skills and the healing that is going around the world and the clinics and I thought, my gosh, if resources could meet those needs, it would be fantastic. We could really swing the world into a very hopeful, peaceful place. And so that was the origin of Sisters Rising. I thought if we just move resources to need and get them to the sisters, it would be great. So actually, I gathered some sister friends and we went looking for the list of sisters. And we thought that this would be really great. And we discovered that there was not a list. And we realized, oh my gosh, this is the largest movement of women the planet has ever known. We were told at that time there were 650,000 sisters, 1,900 congregations, and there wasn't any list. So we had to build a platform and invite sisters to come to us so that we could help them solve or respond to the root causes of the poverty that's around them. And because the sisters are embedded into communities, we knew that they were the ones who would be able to tell us the right answers. And I knew that people trusted the sisters and that we could get resources moved to them. So that's the origin story of Sisters Rising Worldwide. What I'd like to do is to show you now the platform that we developed. We call it the Peace Room, as opposed to a war room. And so if we'll get to the Peace Room, it's a map of the world. And you'll see up at the top where it says World View, up at the top left. That shows that right now we have 523 sisters on board in the Peace Room. And if the map is moved around a little bit, you can see that there's a lot of people around. You can see where those little, like a drop. Those are the countries that we've received people from, sisters from. Now, if we went to Nigeria, for example, there's one dot there. Let's see. But it tells us, if you see that browser up at the left again, it tells us that there are 55 sisters from Nigeria already on the Peace Room. So the dots don't represent just one person. They just say that we're there. If you were to go, say, to the United States, which looks funny because there's one little dot in the middle of the United States. We'll move the map over. If you click on that, you can see again up at the top left that there's 151 sisters are registered there. And you can also see that their names are, that we can get to each person as well. Another piece on this program is where it says program. So if we go back to browse, it's coming there and click on, you can see that we have right now 236 programs that the sisters have registered. So they tell us, the sisters are telling us what they're doing. If you go to the green spot on the world view where it says funding campaigns, right now there are 84 programs that we are actively working on helping to get resources to. If you click on the show only funded, that right there, okay, only funded, you can see that we've already funded in the last couple of years 143 programs. So we've really only been funding programs for about 4 years, so we're pretty excited about that. It's just building. Every year we're able to do more. Now, if you go back, we'll go back to browse on the way on the left side, and you see where it says crisis alerts. There's just one crisis alert there. If click on crisis alert, and you can see if you look to, there we go, it's over by Ukraine. If we look at how many, and there's the program would be listed there. And you can see what the program is. But let's go back to up to the crisis alert where it says one. Up above, okay, just click on there we go, click on that. And show the only funded ones, how many crises we've funded in the past. There are 3 right now. Oh, okay, we got to go there. Okay, there we go. There we go. Crisis alerts. We've funded 26 crisis alerts in the last couple of years. The crisis alert is different from the regular programs in that it's when something happens that's urgent, a war, something with the weather systems is another one that causes crises. Otherwise, the programs that we fund are ones where the sisters can name the root causes to the problem. They say, this is what the problem is. This is what the root cause is. So why don't we go to, let's go to Zambia and see. So if we go to, okay, let's see, are we in, yep, Zambia. You can see that we have 25 sisters there. And they have loaded in 16 programs, and there's 5 that we're working on funding right now. And you can see all the names that are there. There's the list of the programs and the funding campaigns. So let's see if we can go into, oh no, before we do that, let's go up to the top right where there's the search bar. We'll go back to browse and go to the search bar. You see it up at the top right. Now we're going to put in the word health. Click on health. Now look over to the left, and you see where the number has changed from 500 something to 166. What we're doing now is we're able to show which which sisters and their programs are related to health. If we were to go back to the search line on to the right and click out of health, and let's go to migration. Clicked on migration, and notice the left. You see how the numbers change. There are 61 programs on migration. What's interesting about this is that you can see if we were to move the map around, you can see where there's urgency in terms of where are people migrating from or to. And it starts to narrow in. It really is very informative. I always like to think of the Sisters News is probably the most accurate news system on the planet right now. And these would be the places that we could get accurate information and find out really on the ground what's happening. So let's go back to the search bar on the right, click out of migration, and let's just click into human trafficking. And there you see 134 sisters are registered on here, working specifically on human trafficking. There are 74 programs that we're looking at funding right now. And now why don't we zoom in on Zambia, and let's get close to our other panelists here so we can see, so let's there we go. You get in close. You could, okay, click on Kailua. the name, do you see on the drop down, if you click on the name, third name down, okay, up, you can see some information that comes up, specifically who she is, how to contact her, what kind of information to find from her. And she registers programs. So go down and there we go, and program, and up should come the program that she needs funding on trafficking. So we can get down to the minutia. On the left, you'll see all the programs that they come in with Zambia, and you can see specifically this one with fighting human trafficking. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over now to the panelists to talk specifically about it. Thank you, Joanna.
Thank you, Sister Irene, for that tour. That was it's really impressive how you're able to consolidate all that work into one spot. Joanna, are you there to or should we go straight to Sister Ethel and Rosa?
I'm there. We can go. Thanks, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the tour of the Peace Room.
Great.
Great.
Thank you. Yeah, so now that we zoomed in on Zambia, I think now we can zoom in a little differently with some on-the-ground testimonies from Sister Ethel and Rosa, who can tell us a little more about their work there. Rosa, hello. Why don't you start by painting the picture for us regarding what the reality looks like, where you are regarding human trafficking and violence against women?
Okay. Human trafficking, just like in any other part of the world, really starts with a promise, a false promise of an education opportunity, a false promise of love, of work, anything that's then giving someone seemingly an opportunity at a better chance at life. So really, women and children are particularly vulnerable, and this is because of the economic hardship that we're experiencing as a country. The cost of living is quite high, and the number of youths and young women that find themselves without opportunities to better their life, without job opportunities, is also quite high. We also think about the gender inequality. Our cultural practices, our cultural norms are then only making an already difficult living environment, they're only making it worse. And over the last couple of years, we have seen an influx in the number of cases of human trafficking that are growing. And if I can share, even in the last quarter of 2025, that's in the 3 months from October to December, we actually then saw 15 cases of human trafficking. And out of these 15, 5 were actually for sexual exploitation, and 2 were then cases of domestic servitude. And in these 7 cases, it involved over 30 women being the victims of human trafficking. So the reality of human trafficking that we face in our country is very real. These young girls and boys are being sexually exploited, being sexually abused at some of our border towns with our neighboring countries, for instance, in Zimbabwe or Tanzania. And they're also being sexually abused. Not only are they being trafficked, but they're also experiencing sexual abuse. We can also then think of, we've also had cases where a number of women who are fleeing conflict in Congo, undocumented women, because with human trafficking and with these hardships, people are then fleeing, and we're talking about unsafe migration. So you can then also only imagine that a couple of women and a number of undocumented women are also finding themselves falling and being trafficked for sexual exploitation. And earlier I was talking about domestic servitude. It's very common in our practice for a child to leave their family, to leave their home and go and stay with extended family members, to go and stay with acquaintances. And it's in these kind of environments where these young women, where these children are facing sexual exploitation. And the sad part is that for those who then manage to leave these kind of situations, then provided with an opportunity, what they think is, okay, I'm now escaping what I went through in my childhood. This is a better opportunity. But then they only then find themselves being exploited once again, finding themselves on the streets of some of our major cities, being forced to beg. So there's this continuous loop of re-victimization that keeps people continuously exposing them to human trafficking. So these are some of the realities that as a country we are facing and trying to tackle.
I'm kind of holding on to that thing that you said about the desperation that they begin with, whether sometimes it's economic or their migration status and that
Mm-hmm.
cycle. So thank you for that. Sister Ethel, can you tell us a little bit about how sisters engage communities in prevention and awareness efforts? Maybe talking a little bit about um, the original, as Rosa was talking about, like the initial desperation, and then also once they're already trafficked and in that vicious cycle.
Okay, thank you very much. So, as the sisters in Zambia, we are involved with the advocacy and awareness raising in different dioceses. What I appreciate also is that the Zambia Association of Sisterhood has embraced human trafficking as a project, and therefore, in each diocese, you find there's always a sister who is a focal point in raising awareness and any issues of human trafficking. So, as sisters, we are involved mainly in schools, raising awareness in schools, that is prevention. We go to different schools, we go to marketplaces, we go to parishes, and any youth gathering that is organized in the diocese as a way of preventing. We are involved with the community and we go and raise awareness about human trafficking. And then also where we have also found ourselves also in involvement in human trafficking is also profiling of migrants. What we have experienced in Zambia is most of the migrants and documented migrants, as Rosa had said, for lack of having a facility, they are usually kept in prisons. So we follow them up there in the prison, we go and profile them and help them to have their cases heard so that they are repatriated or brought back to their countries. The other way that we engage the community is we also train frontline officers. These would be like the police and have engagement also with the social welfare department, the different women organizations that are there in our country, because we realize that the issues of human trafficking as sisters on our own we cannot do them. So therefore we train those ones who are interested to raise awareness, to prevent and to care for those that have been trafficked, so that we have a collective responsibility for everyone. And also what we do is in every area where we are, I would be in maybe Lusaka, then I use that as my catchment area for raising awareness so that I don't have the financial cost of having to move to another place. So in a nutshell, I think that's how us as sisters in Zambia try to prevent human trafficking and also be in touch with those that have been trafficked. Thank you.
I'm curious about some specific things you tell them for that awareness. You know, what are the things that you tell young girls to kind of be on guard of and to protect themselves? What are, yeah, some specific things that come up in that training?
Some specific things that come up in the training, I think, as Rosa had maybe earlier said, is our young people now are looking for jobs, and then they go online and search any link that they find there. And then maybe there's a job offer in South Africa and they jump on it and they go to South Africa, and that's how they find themselves being exploited.
Mm-hmm.
The other part also maybe just on the same social media is what we have found is that our young people, they like to do a lot of posting online. And then on the other side, there's somebody who likes them, and then they go on this conversation. You know, a trafficker will earn your trust. So have this conversation with you online for a couple of months or a couple of weeks. And then there'll only be that day when you say, let's meet in South Africa. Like you have been speaking to this person for over 3 months. And then they send you whatever money they have to send, they help you process papers, and you're all excited, and then you have gone. We have had actually one case of a young person going like that. And in the end, when she came back from Zambia, she was able to come back. Then we were able to engage her and find out, how did you find yourself being trafficked? And that is what she said. She shared that she had met this person online and had promised her that they would meet up in South Africa and they would have, the person could show her around. But when she got there, actually, she found herself being exploited sexually. Thank you.
Mm. And then what about, sorry, so many follow-up questions. Everything you're saying is so
Not a
interesting.
problem.
I'm curious about the training with the officers and law enforcement. Are they receptive to that? What are the kinds of things you tell them that are different to potential victims?
Oh, thank you very much. So we find actually the frontline officers very receptive. And most of the things that we help them to understand is to be able to detect a person who is being trafficked. Because these would be people at the border or people at checkpoints or people who are in community. So we help them to look out for most suspicious things. Like, how would you know that a person is being trafficked? So one of the ways that you know that this person is being trafficked is there is maybe an adult or the other person who is very controlling,
Hmm.
that they are not able to speak for themselves because they know when they speak for themselves, they'll be able to tell the truth. So this trafficker will ensure that they intimidate the other person, that they are not able to speak for themselves. So we help them to be on the lookout of those maybe red flags, I would call them. And also what we have also seen is people are trafficked in these big lorries and big trucks. So we want the frontline officers to really pay attention to, if they have to check the truck, they should like check it thoroughly to ensure that no one actually is trafficked and is moved from one country to the other without a detection. And then when you talk about social welfare, it looks at the internal issues that happen in the country. As Rosa said, talked about domestic servitude. So we want the neighbors to pay attention to the children who are being abused in the homes. So they have to look out to those red flags. That would be some of the things that we engage them and help them to be alert. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sister. Rosa, why don't you tell us the flip side of things? So Sister Ethel talked about prevention. Tell us a little bit about support services for survivors.
Okay. So for survivor support, we as a network believe that it goes beyond just rescue. It's really about offering a holistic approach. It's also appreciating that the experiences of one victim are very different, as much as cases of trafficking are different. So it's also appreciating that in as much maybe you and I were in the same trafficking case, my experience is very different from yours. So it goes to tending to their immediate needs, whatever that looks like, and also their long-term needs. So from psychosocial support, referring them to healthcare and legal services, like Sister Ethel was talking about the different government departments that we work with and collaborate with, are able to then offer this holistic approach. But also it's very important for us that our survivors are active participants in their healing and reintegration back into the community. So it's about then for us as a network providing that supportive environment as we accompany them outside of the services, but really offering an opportunity for them to express themselves and really go through what they experience so that then the healing in that way can really start, or telling them that they are suffering, they're not suffering alone, they're suffering is joined to that of the suffering of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, but also that they have love, and this journey they don't go through it on their own, but in a way that then respects their confidentiality, and we hope that that then rebuilds or restores the dignity that they lost.
Amazing. Yeah, that's incredibly important for that kind of reintegration to not society, but also just like within themselves. I'm curious if either or both of you want to share some specific stories that really illustrate and kind of,
Yeah.
it's such an abstract concept until you like really zero in on a person. So
Yeah.
can you tell us about some cases that come top of mind to illustrate this?
Okay, sure. So like Sister Ethel was talking about, like through the different awareness raising activities that we have, where people, like she said, are able to report and know where they're reporting. We actually have, there's a story that I would love to share, and I'll ask that Elma plays it, then I can give more detail. But I thought it's very important for this meeting if the participants can hear from themselves a victim story told in their own voice. So I ask that Elma can play the video that we prepared.
My name is Mary. I am 25 years old. I come from Rapula. I grew up as an orphan. I was raised by my grandfather in the village. 2 years ago, some women came from the copper belt. They were buying grains of maize and millet. Looking at my situation, they offered me a job if I left with them. One of them promised me a better life to work and earn money to help my grandfather in the village. I agreed because she appeared very sympathetic and very good to me and to my grandfather. So I agreed to go with her. When we reached the copper belt, the story changed. She became cruel and made me work every day without pay. I was doing household work and landscaping. I felt very trapped and alone. One day, I decided to run away and find work somewhere else. I found piecework as a maid in another town, just to survive. Later, after attending church on a certain Sunday, there was a Talitha Zambia talk. I realized I had been a victim of human trafficking. Now, through TAKUZA, I'm learning food production skills so I can stand on my own and build a better future for myself and for my family and my grandfather too.
So this is actually one of the first cases that I had an interaction with. And Mercy's story, just like many others, in some of these cases when they are given that promise, because in the case of Mercy, she was thinking she's an orphan and staying with her grandfather. So she's thinking, oh, this is my chance to provide for my family and provide taking care of someone who has taken care of me for many years. So in many cases, like Mercy, these young girls, these young women actually find themselves being sexually abused, being taken advantage of, and experiencing continuously different forms of exploitation against them. And I love how Sister Irene was talking about the resources that are there with the Peace Room and the sisters working together and seeing what they are doing. Because for me, this was my first experience, and it actually opened my eyes to realizing that issues of human trafficking, issues of gender-based violence, and for one organization or one entity to address, but it really calls on everyone working together, whatever resources that they can have. And it's because of the Zambia Association, Zambia Association of Sisterhoods, the sister-led empowerment program that they have, that we're then able to recommend Mercy, and she's then now getting this training in agriculture. So these are some of the cases where you can really see that working together and using the resources that we have then actually speak to some of the hardships that I talked about earlier, the economic hardships, the gender equity, and the experiences of victims. So we thought it was very important then to share some of these stories and how we can just showing then how as a community and as a church, we can really work together.
Amazing. It's so impactful to be able to hear the voice of a survivor too, and the beginning to end on how she was helped and in addition to how she got there. Sister Ethel, why don't you tell us about the challenges sisters face and why their presence matters?
Thank you very much. So there are quite a number of challenges that the sisters face. One of them maybe is more of a practical challenge is time. Because we find that for sisters, they are in different ministries, like would be a teacher, but then you would want to still volunteer in raising awareness and give whatever help that you want to give to these who have been trafficked and to prevent the young ones from being caught up. So one of the big challenges is time, to find the time to go there when you have the passion to do it. The other challenge that I have also found is when we go for the migrants who are in prison, as I mentioned earlier, we have challenges with the language. You find we have migrants from all over the place, from South Africa, from French-speaking countries, from Portuguese-speaking countries, and then we struggle with the interpretation and trying to help them. So we really have to look for another extra person to come and help. The other challenge, maybe also what I can mention is I think Rosa also mentioned about helping them to still recognize their dignity. We want them to appreciate that they are made in the image and likeness of God. So one of the challenges that as sisters we find is sometimes we find that we're a little bit handicapped when it comes to counseling skills and journeying with them, because maybe professionally or in terms of a mission, your mission didn't require you to do a training in counseling. So you find you have this a survivor or this person who has been trafficked, and they need to be journeyed with and to be helped. So we also struggle with that. That would be one of the challenges. Maybe the last one is Rosa also spoke about giving them skills. You know, it's one thing to talk to them, but if they're in that desperate situation and they're looking for a job, we always feel that it is more helpful also to be able to sponsor them or help them into like basic skills. They don't have to go to the university, just enough to support themselves so that they don't fall into the temptation of going elsewhere. So sometimes we have that a financial challenge. Why it matters for sisters to be involved is in Zambia, I suppose, like in every other country, the people are more trusting with the sisters. When they see the sisters, then they feel they are safe and they are free to tell their story and they know they will get the help that they need. So that makes the sisters actually more still relevant in the fight against human trafficking. And what I also see with us as sisters also, we are also able to collaborate and work with the others. So there's more significance that the sisters hold, even without saying anything. And they give hope to those who come to them for help. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you both. Is there can you tell us about like the safety of sisters and how dangerous the ministries might be, whether it's in your specific case or other sisters that you work with?
Uh, Fortunate enough, I have never had an issue of security. I thank God for that, yes. But I would also say that when we do these awareness raising programs, if we feel that the place is not safe, the Zambia police is always around, and not to really like create scare the people, but it's because we have worked with them, and they accompany us in different awareness raising programs. So I would also ask maybe Rosa to maybe add something.
Yeah, I actually put my hand up in the chat, so I wanted to add to it. I think what our experience has been as the Talitha Zambia network, even just coming out of our General Assembly that we had for Africa just in November here, was really hearing and appreciating the fact that for Zambia, we have a very close relationship with the Anti-Human Trafficking Department. That's the government department, that's the unit that's looking at cases of trafficking, and with the Zambia police. So for most of these awareness outreach activities that we have, we never go on our own. There's always that support that we have from government. There's that support that we have from law enforcement. They are actually, the ministry, yes, the ministry through the permanent secretary has actually provided law enforcement personnel whose job is then to accompany us and move with us. So on the issues of security, for Zambia, I think that we are very fortunate that we're able to work very closely with the government, and they're able to provide us with that support, that we can go into communities maybe that are a bit scary, or communities that others don't have the opportunity to go to. We actually are able to carry out our activities in some of those places. So I just thought to add that.
Yeah, access is, half the battle, so that's wonderful. Well, we could have a conversation for several hours here based on all your experiences and everything you've seen. Thank you both so much for sharing. It's really special for a large group like this to be able to hear directly from two women who are face to face with the subject matter. So a reminder to everyone that you're welcome to submit any questions for them. We'll hear from them again before we wrap. So thank you again, Sister Ethel and Rosa. We'll continue that spirit of on-the-ground testimonies, but shift into a more journalistic lens here with GSR's international correspondent, Chris Herlinger, who has been a real champion of this series since its inception with loads of global reporting. In fact, he just got back from being on assignment in Indonesia, as we mentioned earlier, and he's intimately involved with reporting on the UN, that kind of like I mentioned earlier, started this idea. So Chris, hello. Oh no, is Chris frozen or is that just me? Chris.
He moved
Chris,
briefly.
Chris, can you hear me?
Hello, Sully. Good to be with you. Oh,
Oh,
okay.
okay. There we go.
Are we good now? Okay. Hold on. I'm getting this message, internet connection unstable. Okay, I think it's stabilized now.
You're good now. Okay. Woo, we
Okay,
had a little scare
okay.
there.
Good.
Great.
No, just a little background. We started the series last March, and part of uh, part of what I did, and I think I wrote the first story, was actually
Mhm.
focus on what the UN was doing. And last year was as many know, was the 50th anniversary of the Beijing Declaration. And so that was every year the UN for the Commission on the Status of Women has a theme. So last year it was an assessment of 50 years since then. And so the theme was not specifically on gender-based violence, but as I covered so many of the meetings and conclaves, it was quite clear that this was a very big subject and very important to women all over the world, but particularly to sisters. So I think that sort of global foundation, I think, is really important and has been helpful in terms of what we've done at GSR. Um, we finally got a chance to go to Indonesia just a couple weeks ago. I was there for 2 weeks with and met with sisters from three congregations: the Missionary Sisters of the Holy Spirit, the Franciscan Missionaries of Mary, and the Sisters of the Good Shepherd. Um, and they're all involved in various ways in ministry to help women who have been trafficked or abused sexually, physically, emotionally. Um, and I think the real the real focus of this reporting will be uh, the first part of my assignment, which was with the Missionary Sisters of the Holy Spirit and in the city of Malmö. And Elmer, I think now is a good opportunity to upload the slides, the presentation, and we can just go from there. Just this sign, this sign was at the toward the end of the trip, but this was a sign that the Sisters of the Good Shepherd in the city of Rotang put up, and what it says is stop abuse of women and children. And in a very prominent way in their convent. I think that says a lot about what uh, how important the sisters um, think that this issue is, the way it's a very burning topic, I think. Next one. I just wanted to give a little idea. I was on the island of Flores, which is the only predominantly Roman Catholic island in the archipelago of Indonesia, and it was rainy season. So I experienced a lot of rain, and we were driving along the coast to get from point A to point B, and it was quite dramatic. But I thought it would be good to show you just a little bit of the context here.
Hmm.
Next one. And this was there was a lot of street art in Flores, again, since it is a Catholic it is a Catholic enclave, and so this kind of street art was quite visible and quite, to me, very quite moving. Next. Now this is the shelter in Malmö that the Missionary Sisters of the Holy Spirit run. And this is a place where women and girls who have been trafficked, who have been abused, and have various other challenges stay. And it's a very protective space. as an outsider, I felt very very welcomed. Very much felt that the young women and the girls were
No, Chris, I think it's the internet. Oh, shoot. I'll give him a second here.
very much comfortable where they are, and that the
Chris, are you there? I think we're back
yeah,
with your
I'm
internet.
here
Yeah.
now.
Okay. Sorry. We lost you for a moment.
Okay, no,
Um,
I keep this occasional internet connection's unstable, but I'll just soldier on here.
yeah, we know that feeling.
Yeah, okay, all right. Now, Elmer, next one, please. This is Sister Ika. She was my main contact when I was in Malmö, and she's actually part of an NGO that was formed by the sisters, and it has involvement not only by the sisters but also laity and also some priests. And the last slide you're going to see is actually of a priest who's working with the sisters. I know many of the sisters on our call know that the relationship between priests and sisters is often not terribly good in some places, but I have to say I thought the relationship I saw between the sisters and the priests here was quite good. So that was very nice.
That's
Uh,
heartening.
yeah. Next one. This this woman is her name is Evie, and she came to the shelter after being in a very abusive relationship with her husband. Uh, they're not divorced yet. She's still trying to work that out, but it seemed like she was probably heading for a divorce. But she had suffered emotional and physical abuse, beatings from her husband, and I was very, very moved that she was very open to talking to me. I mean, she doesn't know me. I'm a white American male, uh, asking for her story, and that cannot always be the most. That can be a tricky dynamic, but she was very, very open and was actually very eager to tell her story. Um, she's one of the things that she's
Oh no, Chris, the internet. Apologies to everyone for these occasional silences. I trust that he'll pop back up here in a second.
received from the sisters is small scale selling of goods. Okay. Do you want me to sign out and come back?
No, you're back. I think just to
No.
move on, I think this is a great preview of the reporting that you're working on, Chris. And so everyone just know that these stories will be up on GSR next week. So, this is a great window into that. Just for the spirit of keeping time, Chris, I'll just ask you a question and then we'll switch to Q&A
Sure,
here.
sure.
But when we started this series, I remember as a staff, we were determined to make sure that we explored the variety of ways that this subject manifests, especially since domestic violence tends to be the immediate image I think a lot of us may have when we hear about violence against women. Obviously, earlier we were talking about human trafficking. That's kind of a big chunk of the subject as well. Can you give some examples of stories you've covered that demonstrate the complexity, or if you want to give a shout out to other reporters too, so that way we can kind of cover the range here?
Well, I mean, I've been with GSR more than 10 years now, and human trafficking, that's been a continual thread.
Yeah.
Um, so I hadn't really done much in terms of actually talking to survivors. So this assignment in Indonesia was a good opportunity to do that. I will say
Mhm.
the young women I talked to in Malmö with the Sisters of the Holy Spirit, Um, they were younger than Evie. I don't have Evie's age, but she's in her 30s or 40s. That may give her a certain resilience, I think. The younger women who had been trafficked, they were much harder to talk to, and I think they were just getting over that experience of being trafficked. So that there's very much that emotional dynamic of people, young women trying to overcome these real challenges. Um, but I mean, as a theme, my goodness, it's been a continual theme for all of us at GSR for as long as I've been here.
I can think as an editor, one of our correspondents in Africa, for example, her story was about how, women are accused of witchcraft and they're
Right.
driven from their villages and, if they survive those accusations. So it can get very interesting in the ways that, people get creative in their forms of violence. And so I recommend everyone check out our series just to see how it might change from country to country. But before we move on to questions, actually, Chris, while I have you here, there is a question from the audience about how the UN is leveraging the sisters' local knowledge and networks to solve these problems. So why don't we go back to the UN here and tell us a little bit about those conversations and how sisters are being utilized.
Well, I think the people at the UN. I mean, and again, some sisters I covered at the UN don't know this is an issue. The You've got in effect several UNs. You have the UN of the states and the UN of the NGOs. I do think the state will listen to sisters, but the sisters always have to push those testimonies, and those experiences and their experiences of ministry. So I think at some level people are listening to what the sisters have to say, but maybe not as much as they could. So it's always up to the sisters at the UN to keep pushing. They feel that their mission is to connect the global with the local, and the local
Mhm.
being the ministries of their congregations in wherever, Asia, Africa, Middle East, etc.
Yeah. That's actually a great transition back to Sisters Rising Worldwide. Thank you, Chris. I'm going to invite our panelists back on. We have a few minutes left for the Q&A with some questions that have trickled in throughout. First, let's say to Sister Ethel. Well, I'll include Rosa too, since you're on the ground with this. This is really difficult work. What inspired you to become involved, and why do you do it, and what keeps you motivated?
What inspired me to be involved in human trafficking? Actually, I was attending a meeting. I was a secretary at the Sisters AGM, and Sister Kayula, I think Irene highlighted her at some point when she was doing her presentation. She was giving an input on human trafficking, and it is in the way that I think she said it, and I felt that call to say I can make a contribution. And from that moment, I started as volunteer. I volunteered for a few days, for a few weeks. And I can tell you, if there's a call to go and help somebody for human trafficking, I can like drop everything and go and help somebody. So it is that desire within myself to help another person who is exploited, promote their human dignity, and keep them safe. I think for me that is to to do something to humanity. And if I can just do that one little bit and help somebody in life, I think for me that is amazing. Thank you.
Wonderful. Rosa, can you tell us, what does survivor-centered healing look like when resources are limited? How do you get creative in this ministry?
Mhm. Really, it's about creating that safe space that I talked about earlier on. Really creating that opportunity where someone can come and express themselves, even though you may not necessarily have the resources to get them psychosocial counseling. But something that I have seen that has worked where resources are limited in regard to survivor support is also involving the community in the healing process of of that survivor? How can the community feel like they are a part of it? And that then also helps even with their integration of the society, sorry, of the victim, because then they know that they are a part of this bigger family and they're really not going through it alone. So in places where resources are not there, I think it's very important that we rely on community resources that are there. And we would be surprised actually what would come out of it.
Mm. Thank you, Rosa. Sister Irene, I want to give you a chance to jump on that UN conversation earlier that I was having with Chris, because I know you're intimately involved with that. Any other pending thoughts on the relationship with sisters, NGOs, and the UN?
Oh, they're a valuable resource for not just the sisters. Oftentimes they come back and they inform us of issues that they're dealing with. But when I visited at the UN, I was very conscious of the way that the sisters informed the delegates and some of the statespeople as well to what really is happening on the ground. They are the source of information of what's happening on the ground. So they're very important. I think that there's about 44 sisters at the UN representing about 200 congregations around the world. So it's a vast network. And Chris is right when he says, they sometimes think of, oh, I'm going to come back to my congregation, I'm going to report. But when you put it in aggregate, which is how I keep seeing it, in aggregate, it is a huge number of people that are touched by the knowledge of the sisters who are working there. So it's a very valuable resource.
Mm-hmm. I can attest to the how valuable sisters are as sources, the bread and butter of GSR, as you had mentioned earlier. Where the sisters are, it's kind of like it's a good it's emblematic of what's going on in the world, the issues they're engaged with. Before we wrap, Sister Irene, I'm sure our audience here would love to hear what they can do to be more engaged and active in this issue. There's probably a little call to action that I'm sure everyone's eager to hear.
Oh, exactly. Well, the first thing I'd like to say for the sisters who are online is that if you would go to the website SRW.
Oh no, am I? I never know if I'm frozen or if the speaker is. I think it's Sister Irene is frozen.
Yep, that froze for a minute.
Well, it sounds like she's sharing some links that are coming in the chat, and we will be sharing these resources as a follow-up. So,
Yes.
don't worry about this cliffhanger. We'll be sure to follow up with that answer. Looks like she hopped off, and she might join us later to resolve that. Well, I want to thank Sister Irene, Sister Ethel, Rosa, Chris for the excellent presentations, and more importantly, for your work in engaging with this issue, whether it's bringing an international spotlight to it or being a courageous direct service to those who are victims of it. I'm so grateful that we're able to have such a well-rounded conversation thanks to what you all bring to the table. So thank you all. And thanks to all of you for taking time out of your day to join us and learn more about the subject. I encourage you all to continue to stay engaged by reading Global Sisters Report and our Out of the Shadows series specifically, and visiting the Peace Room and supporting the work of Sisters Rising worldwide. Again, you will receive an email from us with a link to the recording and other resources that were referenced by today's presenters. So with that, thank you all, and yes, have a wonderful rest of your day.